Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. Today, I want to talk about the signs that your ex is emotionally immature. You often hear people describing their exes as selfish or narcissistic, but maybe it's actually emotional immaturity instead. And you may spot yourself in some of these signs, especially if you're under 25. That's why relationships in that age group always have so much drama, because most people under 25 don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. But before I give you the signs, I want to, of course, welcome back my no contact army, my beautiful no contact army. Have you been a good little soldier and downloaded my app Silenzio? Well, if you haven't, and you have an iPhone, the link is below every single video. And if you too would like to join the No Contact Army, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and the bell notification, and you're in. And to read our manual, go to nocontactsecrets.com, where you can read 2 free chapters before purchasing the book. So before I give you the signs of emotional immaturity, we need to define what it is. It is the lack of or low emotional intelligence, otherwise known as EQ. And when someone is emotionally immature, they have a low EQ, even though they may have a high EIQ. The two do not go hand in hand. And to give you a definition from Psychology Today, they say a person high in EQ is not impulsive or hasty with their actions. They think before they do. That translates into steady emotional regulation, or the ability to reduce how intense an emotion feels. Taking anger or anxiety down a notch is called down regulation. The emotionally intelligent are able to shift gears and lighten mood both internally and externally. And I always hear people say, oh, well, you have to learn to control your emotions. No, you don't have to learn to control your emotions. You can't, and nor should you try. But you need to learn to control your reactions to your emotions. That's where the problem is. It's not the having of the emotions, because we all have the same emotions, anger, fear, etc., but it's what you do with those emotions that determine whether you are emotionally mature or emotionally immature. Okay, so let's get started. And by the way, if you want to see emotional immaturity in action, just watch any of the Real Housewives show on Bravo. Those women do not hold back, and they do not regulate their emotions, whether it's for the camera or even worse. That's just who they are. That is a great example of emotional immaturity. Okay, so these are in no particular order. The first one is that they won't admit mistakes and they won't apologize for them. So people who are emotionally immature have a hard time admitting they made a mistake, and an even harder time apologizing. And if you do get an apology at all, it's the kind that avoids responsibility and makes their behavior somehow someone else's fault. So they'll say something like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not an apology. Whereas someone who's emotionally mature is quick to apologize and gives a sincere apology. The next one is name calling. Name calling is definitely a sign of immaturity. And as you get older, you realize there's really no point in doing that. It doesn't get you anywhere, and it just leads to hurt feelings. It's childish, and it really reflects badly on the person doing the name calling. Luckily, I never date people who name call, but I know that if someone were to do that to me, the conversation would immediately be over. I would say, all right, this conversation's over. And when you learn to communicate in a mature way, we can talk again. So do not let people get away with name calling. The next sign is that they get defensive when confronted, no matter how nice the confrontation is. So they immediately get defensive, and they may try to direct the blame to you, or to find a way to shift the attention away from their feelings of humiliation or rejection. And that's because they haven't learned how to articulate their feelings. So it's easier to just react badly rather than address the situation calmly. The next sign of emotional immaturity is overreaction. I think we've all been there. And emotionally immature people constantly overreact rather than respond because they're not in control. They haven't learned to regulate their emotions, and so every little situation turns into World War III, and that becomes exhausting for anybody having to deal with them. The next sign is that their self-worth is dependent on the relationship. So someone who's emotionally immature constantly takes the temperature of the relationship and judges their self-worth accordingly. So if their partner's in a bad mood, it's going to wreck their own mood and make them feel less than. They assume everything that happens says something about their value and their worth. Next, they take everything personally. And we've probably all met someone like this, and it's exhausting because you constantly have to tiptoe around them because they assume that every action and reaction is a direct response to them, and they don't consider the fact that maybe it has nothing to do with them, but something that the other person is going through. The next sign is that they demand attention, and this usually applies more to women than men, and no, I'm not being sexist. I've discussed in a previous video the biological reason why women need attention. So someone who's emotionally immature will demand attention rather than ask for it. This is someone who doesn't want you to spend time with your family, your friends. They expect you to drop everything and be with them at any time of the day or night. And with women, if their verbal demands fail, they'll switch to other ways of getting attention by their appearance or their behavior. And this is when we start to see the sexy photos pop up on Instagram after a fight or a breakup. Guys don't really tend to do that. They may, but usually not. Okay, the next sign is they don't compromise. So emotionally immature people think that sacrifices should be made to accommodate them instead of it being reciprocal. They have this my way or the highway attitude that often ruins relationships and friendships. And then the last one is they show their feelings instead of talking about them. So that means that they're not good at communicating their feelings, and instead the feelings come out in the form of passive-aggressive communication, the silent treatment, slamming doors, heavy sighs, glares across the room. And this can get annoying because you have to try to figure out what's wrong, but if you actually ask, they're not going to tell you. So to recap, they won't admit mistakes and they won't apologize for them. Name calling. They get defensive when confronted, no matter how nice the confrontation is. Overreaction. Their self-worth is dependent on the relationship. They take everything personally. They demand attention. They don't compromise. They show their feelings instead of talking about them. And that's it. That was the last one. So how many of these signs did you see in your ex? And for those who are bold enough to admit, how many of these signs did you see in yourself? And in the meantime, if you would like my help to get your ex back, or with any aspect of dating actually, you can contact me at theartoflove.net. The direct link is below and we will send you the rates. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please rate and review. And finally, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.